Hi, I'm Ted Kofi, and this is a quick addition to the most fantastic broadcast I've heard on LinkedIn's big Black History Month event. I think it was billed as, which talked about diversity and inclusion. And I just thought I'd add three pithy points about how others might benefit from this opportunity to look at diversity and inclusion. When I look back, I've been involved in D&I over the last 20 years and more. I've trained C-suite staff, British Army, L'Oreal, stakeholder organizations of the EC. And I've discovered that actually diversity is being quite well addressed. Of course, there's always, streets further to walk down. But diversity is something which is in motion at the moment. What is not so well taken care of is the issue of inclusion. And of course, however diverse you make your organizations, if inclusivity isn't included as part of the package, that in and of itself can further down the line destabilize and reduce the momentum towards increasing diversity in corporate spaces. So the 3 points I'd really like to make are, first of all, that executives and the majority populations in corporate culture need to change their expectations, moderate their expectations. I'll give you one example. It's very easy to say, well, look, we want a diverse crew in our businesses, but expect people to behave along the norms and typicalities of the majority population. Now, if I further expand on that, if, for example, you bring a person who is a native German speaker who has mastered English, can communicate in English, into the organization, or say a Japanese person into the organization, or say a South Asian born, say Indian person into the organization. I'm not talking about Rishi Sunak, our illustrious Prime Minister now. He's a Wickhamist. He went to Winchester College. It's one of the more established public schools in the United Kingdom. But if you expect the people who come into the organization to behave as, if you like, ersatz Britishers speaking for the United Kingdom or whatever your native country may be, you're going to miss a trick, because you will be imposing on them a persona which is entirely a figment of your imagination, a persona that's been created more for your convenience than for what fits that individual. Now, if that is your expectation, you will make the person who is fulfilling that role spend 70% of their mental, intellectual, emotional, and other faculties living the role, or acting rather, the role that you have created for them, than spending 70 or 80% bringing the creativity that their actual persona could bring to that role. So when I say change your expectations, these aren't expectations of quality. These are purely expectations of persona and behavior. That's very important. The second point I'd like to make is about, it really is so basic, even to the idea of democracy, that you listen to what the people who are of non-traditional backgrounds in your organization, you listen to and hear what they have to say. It's very easy to listen to a person. It's also incredibly easy to just frankly sweep it under the carpet. I'll give you an example. I was just a couple of weeks ago in a meeting in which we were talking about issues around kind of global stability, world peace, and that sort of thing. And I told them, my contribution was that actually people um, can be very siloed in their perspectives of how things should be and want to impose this on other people, which is naturally a creator of conflict. And, one of the dear fellows in the meeting immediately piped up that actually most of us are very broad minded and so on and so forth. No, he could only speak for himself, A. B, by saying what he was saying, he was actually completely undermining and demonstrating that he hadn't heard the point that I was trying to make. It's very subtle, but you have to put yourself in the shoes of the person who is hearing you to understand the impact that you're having. And so it is very, very easy, particularly for those with the authority, particularly for those in the majority, which lends a kind of spurious authority, to listen to, but completely unhear what is being told. The third thing, which I think really aids inclusivity, is another very simple thing. It's a standard human behavior. It's empathy. Now, I'm told that the vast majority of us fall within kind of a spectrum of psychonormality, whereas a very tiny minority of us actually test as psychopathic. And one of the key characteristics of psychopathic behavior is the inability to empathize with the other. Everything is totally ego driven and focused on the needs, aspirations, and ambitions of the subject, which is the self. I'm not saying that any of us are psychopathic, but we can, under certain circumstances, behave in ways which are incredibly unempathetic. I'll give you one example. If, for example, someone was to say that, look, I've just been diagnosed with a big C, how would you respond to a situation like that? But you don't tell a person with cancer that, well, I've never had it and I don't know how it feels. Because if you say that sort of thing, what you're telling them is completely isolating them even further than what the diagnosis did on the fateful day or hour that the individual got told. So when people share their truths, when you listen to what they're saying, it's important to bear in mind that one mustn't make utterances which suggest that what that person is saying suggests they come from planet Zog, so that they feel even more isolated, because I guarantee you, the next time something else comes up, they will clam up, and there, out of the window, runs the opportunity to build inclusivity in your setup. So by these three things, namely changing one's prescribed expectations, to listening and hearing, and three, showing behaviors which are frankly empathetic as opposed to alienating, one can go a long way towards bridging the gap of having the numbers ticking the boxes with the Rainbow Coalition, making yourselves look incredibly diverse, but in actual fact, having a real struggle with the issue of inclusivity. And I think I'm just about inside the range of the month, and that's my contribution. Please share your comments, if you can, about the 3 points I'm making. Thanks so much for listening.